والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. First of all, I'd like to welcome you all to ICS 104, Introduction to Programming using Python and C. My name is Wasf al-Khatib, and inshallah I'll be your instructor for this semester بإذن الله. First of all, as I will always do, I will download the attendance list in the beginning of the class. I've just done it, and also I will do it at the end. Yani, usually before we finish, also I will take the attendance list. I hope يا شباب that we all يعني come early. Mashallah, I think at least I have seen 22 or 23 5 minutes before the class time. This is great. طيب. So let me share with you the syllabus so that we can discuss it together. We can go over it together. Let me see. Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Tamam, very good. Fine. So basically, of course, we have two sections here, section 9 and 10, that are running from 1 to 2. Now, if you want my information, if you click here, if you control-click here, it will take you to the list of all instructors and for the lecture and instructors for the lab, which has their information and their office hours. This is mine. My office building is 22328. Inshallah, things will improve بإذن الله, and we'll see you face to face. This is my phone number in the office, and this is my email. And as far as the office hours are concerned, they are basically Sunday and Tuesday from 11 to 11:50 and 2 to 2:50, which is basically after my two classes, after my sections 5 and 6, and after sections 9 and 10. So this is the office hours. Right. So now we will go over the course. The course, as I said, Introduction to Programming using Python and C. Let me just go over the catalog description very quickly. Overview of computer hardware and software, programming in Python with emphasis on basic program constructs, variables, assignments, expressions, decision structures, looping, functions, lists, files, exceptions. Inshallah, all this terminology will be discussed and explained بإذن and introduction to objects and classes. So this is kind of the first 11 weeks in the semester we will spend with Python. Then we will spend the rest of the 4 weeks with C, programming in C with emphasis on pointers and functions with output parameters. The objective of this course is basically to provide the students with the basic principles of programming and develop the required problem-solving skills needed in programming. And I always say this whenever I teach a programming course. This should be an interesting and thrilling course and material basically to know. It's very nice. I hope that all of you will like programming, especially whenever you had a certain program to do a certain task for you, and then after you finish it and it works 100% as you wanted. I cannot explain the feeling, the amazing feeling that one has. So I hope inshallah that you will enjoy it. As far as the course learning outcomes are concerned, basically upon completion of this course, you should be able to write Python expressions, use Python's control structures in problem solving, use the console and files for input-output, use Python's lists, tuples, and dictionaries in problem solving, develop Python code to solve a specific problem, and finally become familiar with programming constructs that are special to the C language, The textbooks, as I understood from the two sections that I gave, it seems they have not been distributed, at least the first one, اللي هو Python for everyone. This is by Hortzman and Nicaise. And the other one I think should be available, problem solving and program design in C, whether you are on campus or off campus. I think the university has made arrangements to deliver these books to students all over Saudi Arabia, inshallah. And of course, we have the lecture and lab handouts. Now, regarding this book, since you have not taken it, if you search the web, you will find the second edition, which is absolutely fine with us. Now, I know maybe it's illegal to do this, so that's why I'm not going to give it to you like this, but search for it. Inshallah, you'll get it. If you don't get it, contact me. Outside class, outside everything, we'll see what we can do. طيب. There is a PDF file for the second edition of the book. Okay, any questions so far before we proceed? Okay, let's see here. We have a hand. Anas, go ahead.
Hello, teacher. How are you?
حياك, alhamdulillah.
I want to ask you about the name of that book that you're talking about right now.
It's called Python for Everyone. The information, by the way, do you all have access to the common Blackboard account? I think you should. If you have registered for the course, you should have access now to the common Blackboard. Basically, the syllabus is posted on Blackboard, as well as the slides, which are in Jupyter Notebook, which we will talk about, inshallah, in a few minutes. But all the information is going to be on Blackboard, inshallah. Okay.
Thank you very much.
طيب. So let's now come to some painful things, the assessment plan. So basically, first we have 20% for the lab component, the whole lab component. One of them is a test, a lab test, which is worth 5%, a project, which is worth 5%, and then lab work, the tasks that you will be doing during the lab is going to worth 10%. Okay. For the time and date for the lab test, inshallah, this will be conveyed later. So this is 20%. Then we have 10% homework assignments. We will have 5 homework assignments and 2% each. Basically, that will be 10. And the frequency most probably is going to be like every 3 weeks we'll have a homework. Now, regarding the tests, as you can see here, there are no quizzes, since from my experience and other faculty's experience in 192, it's hard to conduct those types of quizzes during class time, and it was basically a hassle. So what we decided to do is, instead of having only one midterm that has a big chunk, big percentage, and then one final which has maybe even bigger percentage, instead of doing that, we divided it into 3 tests. Okay, so we're going to have 3 tests and a final. The first test is 7%, 10%, and then the second 2 are 15%. Yes. Is there anything? Okay.
إيه
So
قاعدين
also
يشرحوا عن الستراكشر، إيش حناخذ شو حناخذ، كيف التقسيم، كيف
يا
التوزيع،
شباب
كيف كل شيء.
قلنا سكروا المايك. طيب let me do this and then okay. طيب. Okay. So as I said, we're going to have 3 tests. All the tests were scheduled at they were scheduled at 7 p.m. so that we know that wherever you are in Saudi Arabia, by 7 p.m. you should have prayed the Maghrib, by that time, so that the tests will not affect anybody's prayers. And then we have the final exam, which is 30%. And now you will see the material. The material for each test is already known. Inshallah, we will see that when we go to the second table now, which is basically the lecture and lab schedule. So in the first week, we will be basically going over the syllabus, which we are doing now, plus overview of computer programming using Python. And there will be no lab this week. However, on Blackboard, I have uploaded under lab content a file that installs Jupyter Notebook, which we will be using in our presentations, and also you will be using in the lab, inshallah. And I highly encourage you to try to install it even before next class, even before Tuesday. I made it, it was made like a step-by-step guideline, such that hopefully you will face no problem. However, of course, even if you face problems, the lab next week, at least the first portion of it, will be dedicated to resolving all these problems. Then we will have 2 weeks for chapter 2, variables, strings, and arithmetic operations. And of course, the 2 weeks after will be also the labs associated with these 2 weeks. And then we will have weeks 4 and 5, we'll have the selection structures. And of course, in week 5 and week 6, we will have their labs. Now, if you look at the material here, the material for the first test is basically until variables, strings, and arithmetic operations. So basically after you took both lectures and after you took both labs, okay? So at this point, you are ready to be tested on this material. Then, for example, in the second case, the material will be up to repetitions and loop statements. So again, you will be finishing the last lab for repetition and loop statements, and you'll be finishing it by week 8. So at the end of week 8, you will basically take test 2. And of course, then we will have functions, lists, tuples, and dictionaries, files and exceptions, classes and object orientation. And then you will take the labs of those. And after the lab of the last one, classes and object orientation, at the end of that week, you will basically take the last test, which will be on Python. By the way, we are scheduled on week 12 to start the C language programming, okay? Introduction to C language. And as you can see, the C language part will only be tested in the final. We actually thought about having a 4th exam on the week 14, but then maybe we thought that it's kind of too much for the students. It seems that 3 is reasonable. 3 exams was reasonable. So this is this is kind of the assessment plan that we we will be following. Teacher, I have a MacBook. Is there an issue? Hopefully not. I actually tried it on a Mac, so there will be hopefully no problem. And in the instructions, actually, you will see when there is a difference. You will see, one for Windows, one for Mac. Do we install Jupyter using Kunda or pip? It's up to you. In the document that we have, we're going to use Anaconda. Okay, we're going to use Anaconda. Fine. Okay, so let's go now to course policies. First of all, labs. Lectures and labs are integrated and they complement each other. The requirements for the lab project will be discussed in the lab. Now, one thing that I would like to mention regarding labs is that in some cases, some students might think that a lab is a place where the summary of the lecture is given, and that will not happen in this course. In this course, the philosophy of the lab is the following. The lab, first of all, the lab assumes that you have, been familiar with and you have mastered the concepts that were mentioned in the lecture, at least theoretically, and now you will come to practice them in the lab. Not only that, but sometimes even we might give extra information in the lab that you are responsible for knowing. Okay, so make sure that you come very well prepared when you come to the lab. The lab, nobody will, recap whatever was basically given in the lecture. Right. The course website and participation. Students are required to periodically check the course website on the Blackboard and download course material as needed. Several resources will be posted through the website as well. Keys to exams are generally discussed during the class as time permits, but solutions will not be posted. A common Blackboard will be used for communication and interaction, posting and submitting assignments, posting grades, posting, well, we cannot post sample exams. You are the first batch, so we cannot do that, but we're going to use Blackboard for all these things. It's expected that you get benefit of the discussion board by raising questions or answering questions, and of course, your participation will also be rewarded. Online attendance, well, we talked about, the policy on online attendance. Basically, missing more than 6 lectures or 3 or more unexcused labs will result in a DN grade without prior notice. To avoid being considered as absent, an official excuse must be shown no later than 1 week of returning to classes. So this applies for both physical or online. No makeup tests will be given. For regrading, if you have a complaint about any of your grades, discuss it with the instructor no later than a week of distributing the grades, except for the final. Only legitimate concerns on grading should be discussed. The office hours, students are encouraged to use the online office hours to clarify any part of the material that is not clear. And academic honesty. Students are expected to abide by all university regulations on academic honesty. Cheating will be reported to the department chairman. Now, whatever that level of cheating, homework, copying somebody else's homework, or basically soliciting some help from outside, to get your homework done, using online or resources available on the web. There are basically ways that you can get caught if you do any of these 3 things. Please, if you have a problem with the homework, if you have a problem with the project, come to the instructor. The instructor will help. And it will not be, my response will not be, oh, this is a homework, I'm not gonna, discuss it with you. No, to the contrary. I'll explain whatever needs to be explained. I might even lead you to the first steps of the solution. I don't mind, but come and ask. Okay, come and ask. So, so whenever in doubt, review the university guidelines or consult the instructor. As I said, cheating is gonna be taken very seriously and may result in an F grade. Okay, So please bear that in mind. Students are expected to be courteous towards the instructor and their classmates throughout the duration of the course. Please, whenever you have a question, don't hesitate to ask. If you have a question, ask. There is nothing called the trivial question or silly question, at least in my textbook. In my way of teaching, there is no such thing as a silly question. I will, I'll respond to that if there is if the time or if the current setup is not the best one to answer this question. I will very respectfully ask you to wait until, for example, after class, and then I can take your question. But don't keep your questions to yourselves, okay? And don't be afraid to ask a difficult question. If you ask a hard question, you will not, go 2 letter grades lower in your final grade. No, I'll just simply say I don't know, and hopefully I'll try to find an answer next class. But don't keep that question to yourself, because if you do so, you might get it in one of those tests, and in that case, it will be very expensive. So, as I said, don't be shy. Please ask. طيب. When necessary to send an email through the university, please do it through the university email system and indicate 201 ICS 104 in the subject, so that I know it's coming from the ICS 104 students. So this is all what I have regarding the syllabus, the contract. If you have any question before we start, inshallah, our first lecture, go ahead. Abdul Rahman, تفضل.
I just wanted to ask, do you need any prior experience in programming for you to pass this
No.
course?
No. You don't need any prior experience in programming to get an A+ in this course.
Because I just caught interest in programming a few months ago. I didn't have much time to practice.
Inshallah, you will have much more time to practice here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Ahmed, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, Doctor.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Doctor, if there is no any sample tests, how can we get ready for the exams?
By doing the homework, by doing the tasks in the lab. It will not be something, far from what you do in homeworks or labs.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yazid.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
كيف حالك دكتور؟ إن شاء الله طيب.
حياك.
Doctor, I want to ask about the online lectures. It's going to be recorded, if possible.
Did I record this one?
No,
yes,
I mean
it is recorded. Yeah, I'll try to have it recorded. Yes.
So we can come back to it and review it.
Yes, inshallah. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. أسامة.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
دكتور، تقدر تنزل لنا يعني زي ما تقول زي الأسئلة وزي كذا بديلا عن الاختبارات السابقة؟
والله, the questions in the book are more than enough, and many of them are solved. Your book, by the way, is very nice. يعني the Python for Everyone book is written in a very simple, nice English, and I think it's a very good book. I hope inshallah you'll like it and enjoy it.
شكرا.
حياك. طيب. So I think we're ready then to jump into the material. Let me just grab my cup of coffee, and I will share let me first share the other screen first. I need to share the screen on Doctor, do I need to use the C book from the start or only on week 11? Yeah. It's only way until week 11. We're not gonna touch base with the C book. What's the difference between Python and this is what we will learn, inshallah, ya Khalid. This is what we will learn. طيب. Let me stop sharing this one and share the other one. Where is it? This is the one. طيب, can you see يا شباب the introduction, chapter 1, sections 1 to 6? Is it?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. Very good. طيب. So this is, by the way, a Jupyter notebook. Inshallah, you will know more about it when you try to install it on your machine. But let me first use the extension RICE, which converts this. These are, by the way, called cells. And you will see that, inshallah, when you take the lab. But let me now press this button, and this now has become a full-blown presentation. Okay. So we're going to cover sections 1 to 6 from chapter 1. The learning outcomes of this chapter is basically to learn about computers and programming, to write and run your first Python program, to recognize compile time and runtime errors, and what is the difference between a compile time error and a runtime error. Fine. So, first of all, what is a computer? Well, the computer is a machine that stores data, and data could be numbers, words, videos, pictures, whatever. So it stores data, interacts with devices, like, for example, the monitor, the sound system, the scanner. We will see, for example, this is a scanner. So it interacts with devices, and it executes programs. So this is what a computer is. A computer program tells a computer in minute detail the sequence of steps that are needed to fulfill a task. Minute detail. إيش يعني minute detail؟ يعني بأدق التفاصيل. Okay. In minute detail, the sequence of steps that basically are needed to fulfill a certain task. Now, the act of designing and implementing computer programs is basically called programming. And this is, inshallah, what we hope that you will be getting after the end of this course, that you will know how to design and implement computer programs. Of course, using Python and also using C towards the end. The physical computer and peripheral devices are collectively called the hardware. So the monitor, the keyboard, the scanner, all these are called hardware, right? The programs that the computer executes are called the software, Right. So let's move on and let's talk about the anatomy of a computer. What does the word anatomy mean?
مكونات أو أعضاء.
Huh?
مكونات.
Anatomy. It's usually reference in بالتشريح, صح? It's the components, right? The structure, the components of the computer. What are the components of a computer? So the computer hardware consists of the physical elements in a computer system. Okay. So what are the physical elements in a computer system? Well, we have the central processing unit, we have the storage devices, and we have the input and output. So the central processing unit performs program control and data processing. We will see that in more details next slide. Storage devices include two types of memory. We have primary memory and we have secondary storage. Okay. Now, for primary memory, it consists of memory chips, which are electronic circuits that can store data as long as it is provided electric power. طيب, what happens if I switch that electric power off? What will happen? What do you think?
The data will be lost.
The data will be lost. The data will be lost. What will happen if you now, switch off your laptop? So whatever is, being, for example, given to the rest of you, it will keep flowing. But for you, since these things will come in the primary storage, or through the primary storage, it will be lost. That's why the primary storage are usually fast and they are more expensive than secondary storage. And examples of them are the RAM and the ROM. The RAM, the random access memory, and the ROM, which is the read-only memory. Now, for the random access memory, all of you know, for example, when you buy a laptop, it says, it has 8 gigabyte RAM or 16 gigabyte RAM and so on and so forth. Now, notice here that I have 1, 2, and then I have a third bullet, but there is nothing in the third bullet. Now, why are we using Jupyter Notebook? Well, this is one of the reasons why we're using Jupyter Notebook. If I double-click here, you will notice that fast are more expensive, for example, RAM and ROM, and I have this, I just need to remove it, right? So once I remove it, and now let me press Shift-Enter, and then I will go back to the presentation mode. Okay. And by the way, it is saved. I don't have to, save as, or it's already now saved. Okay. You will see now a cooler thing when we do code on the presentation. Okay. And that's why actually we have chosen Jupyter. To tell you the truth, this is my first time of using Jupyter, and I was really amazed by it and by its capabilities. Right. So let's go back to the lecture. So this is primary memory. Then we have secondary storage, which basically provides slower, less expensive storage that is persistent, meaning without electric power. Okay. So even if you switch it off, the data will still be there. The programs will still be there, stored, right? What are examples of secondary storage? Well, all of you know, like flash drives, hard disks, CDs, DVDs, etc. All these are examples of secondary storage, okay? So computers store both data and programs. Both are located in secondary storage. Now, but if I want to execute them, I have to bring them to the primary memory, okay? So they are loaded into primary storage when programs are executed. Then we have input-output devices that allow the user to interact with the computer, okay? So examples are mouse, keyboard, printer, screen. So the screen, example of input or output?
Output.
Screen is an example of an output, صح? The monitor is an example of an output. طيب, what about the keyboard?
Input.
Input.
Keyboard is input. Mouse?
Input.
Input.
Scanner?
Input.
Okay, somebody said input and output. Explain that to me.
Input that I can put a paper on it and it will appear in my device.
تمام.
I can use it to print something from the computer.
Well, that's the printer. صح?
Yeah.
So the scanner is an input, right? The scanner is an input device. طيب. Okay. So let's now go to a little bit more details on the CPU, the central processing unit. Basically, it has two components, the control unit and the arithmetic logic unit. The control unit directs operation of the processor. So computer resources are managed by the control unit, like the RAM, the buses, the secondary storage. All the available computer resources are basically controlled by the control unit. It controls communication and coordination between input and output devices. So the control unit or the CPU will basically take the information that is gained through the input device like the mouse or the keyboard and produces the output. So it will be like the result of a click if it was an input from a mouse, or the result of, you know, pressing a button on the keyboard if that's the case, like for example showing the letter that corresponds to that button on the keyboard. It reads and interprets instructions and determines the sequence for processing the data. So if you have a program, it interprets those instructions in the program and the sequence in which, you know, it will execute those instructions. And it also going to provide timing and control signals. So this is regarding the control unit. So it's kind of the heart of the CPU. Then we have another, which is also very important, is the arithmetic logic unit. The arithmetic logic unit contains circuitry to perform calculations and do comparisons. And especially in computing intensive applications, you do a lot of these, right? So it's the workhorse portion of the computer, and its job is to do precisely what the control unit tells it to do. So if the control unit says, I have an instruction to add 2 registers, it will send it to the arithmetic logic unit, and the arithmetic logic unit will carry out the addition. Okay, so all these types of computations are carried out basically using the arithmetic logic unit. Right. Now, program instructions and data, such as text, numbers, audio, or video, are stored on the hard disk, like for example, this hard disk, or the secondary storage like DVD or CD, or it also could be somewhere in the network, right? Somewhere that you can fetch from the network. When a program starts, it's brought into memory. So the program will be brought into the memory, the RAM, and the CPU then will read that program and will execute one instruction at a time. Okay, will execute one instruction at a time. The CPU reads, modifies, and writes data back to memory or the hard disk. So after, for example, processing finishes, I might need to store the program back, especially if I did any changes to it. The CPU will take care of that. Some program instructions will cause the CPU to place dots on the display screen or printer, or to vibrate the speaker. So the CPU, for example, if the program is to display an image, the CPU will basically display or send the instruction to this or displays that image on the display screen. Or if, for example, you wanted to print a contract or the syllabus, basically the CPU will basically ask the printer to do that, to print the contents of the syllabus, and so on and so forth. Some program instructions read user input from the keyboard or from the mouse, right? And the program analyzes the nature of these inputs and then executes the next appropriate instruction. An example of user input, even not from keyboard or mouse, is basically through the microphone. You know, if you have iPhone like Siri, or I don't know what is the counterpart in Android, you basically tell it, call so and so, and it will basically take the audio or the voice from the microphone. It will process what you mentioned. It will convert it into text, and that text is then converted to the command that you actually wanted the mobile to do. So the program analyzes the nature of these inputs and then executes the next appropriate instruction, which is, for example, dialing the number of that person. Okay. Right. So in this course, as I said, we will learn programming, and programming as part of the programming in what we call a high-level programming language. Now, what's the thing behind about high-level programming language? Well, high-level programming languages specify a large number of simple CPU instructions with much fewer understandable statements. So, for example, if you are to print something on the screen, the CPU instructions might be maybe more than 20, 30, I don't know how many statements to be executed before these are shown on the screen. Now, from a human being perspective, or from a human point of view, I'm not really interested in 2030, and I just want to print this, or like to show this image, display this image, or to play this video. I'm not concerned of the details of the sequence of instructions that the computer does in order to do this or do that. And this has a very good reason for it. I mean, specifying CPU instructions can be tedious. Actually, it is tedious and is error prone. Since you have a lot of instructions, how do you know that you are not gonna miss or forget or ignore an important instruction? Whereas if you use simple statements that are complex enough, I know exactly what the program is doing, and I will let this can I say this boring decomposition of this statement into all these CPU instructions and then carrying out those CPU instructions. I will leave it to the device. Okay, I'm not interested in it. So this is the purpose of high-level programming languages, and Python is a high-level programming language. It's actually one of the very popular high-level languages, especially these days, is Python. And this guy is the one who invented it. He developed it in the early 90s. His name is Guido van Rossum. Basically, the philosophy behind developing Python was that he wanted a language suitable for writing smaller programs that may not run at optimum speed. Okay, the catch here is I would like to do so many things, but I don't want to write so many things. Okay, so he wanted something that is simple, that in few lines of code I can do what I want, and I really don't care about optimal speed, because in actually many cases, especially for example the programs that we will be writing, the difference between optimal and non-optimal will not even be noticeable, right? Now, this is not the case with other high-level programming languages like Java and C. In Java and C, since they are also, and we will see that inshallah maybe the day after tomorrow, they are compiled. So the statements will go through processing such that the compiler will try to optimize the code in order to run faster. And this will not happen in Python. Okay, this will not happen in Python. Python is interpreted, as we will see inshallah as we will see later. Okay, so some reasons for Python's success: simpler and clearer syntax than Java, C, and C++. It's actually very simple. You will see that. You can try out short Python programs in an interactive environment. In fact, we will do it now. And it is portable between computer systems. So, for example, I will not discuss this slide here, but I will come to this cell. You know, this cell, this is basically our first Python program. It has, you know, two instructions: print hello Saudi world, print hello Riyadh. Okay. Now you will see what's the nice thing about this Jupyter notebook. So now if I click here and I press Shift Enter, now it has been executed. So it printed hello Saudi world, hello Riyadh. Okay. Not only that, but who do we have here? The last one who wrote something is Ali Makki. So let's write Ali. So instead of hello Riyadh, I will say hello Ali. Okay. And then Shift. And as you can see, this is hello Ali. Now, this is only two-liner, but you can write 1,000-line code in this cell, and you can run it, and you can change it, and you can save it, as inshallah you will see in the lab. This is why, you know, I got really, you know, excited, you know, knowing this environment. Not only that, but as I said, why do I want you, you know, to try to install Jupyter Notebook and have it ready before next class? Because by next class, we might do activities. I might ask you to actually, you know, carry out or try something and share your screen with us. How did you solve it? You can do it on the slides. Okay, you can do it on the same slides. You can share it with everybody. You can do it on the slides. Right. So now we have only 2 minutes left. Basically, this is where I stopped with the other two sections. So I will not continue. Inshallah, we will go over this slide later on. But if anybody has any question, please raise your hand and ask before we inshallah stop. Any questions, ya shabab? Whether on the material that was given or whether on the syllabus that we discussed.
السلام عليكم دكتور.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
بالنسبة للطلاب اللي بعيدين عن الجامعة كيف
نعم.
يستلمون الكتب؟
والله I know that the university has sent an email with this regard. المشكلة let me see if I can have it. But anybody knows about that the email that was sent by the university?
الإيميل قال اللي يبعدون عن الجامعة 200 كيلو يجون ياخذونها. بس ما قال شيء عن الطلاب.
قصدك أقل من 200 كيلو؟
إيه 200 كيلو وأقل. أما اللي أكثر من 200 كيلو ما قالوا عنهم شيء.
لا قالوا إنه راح يكون في مراكز يستلموا فيها الكتب.
اعتقد زي ما قال الدكتور انه راح ينظمون آلية معينة لرسائل الكتب لهم. ما ادري كيف.
نعم.
طب هل في كتب إلكترونية؟
في، مش قلنا اول الكلاس اذا بتدوروا مظبوط بالنت بتلاقوا الكتاب السكند اديشن موجود، لكن اذا ما لقيته كلمني، ابعت لي ايميل وان شاء الله بندبره. بس I cannot really tell you ولا اعطيكم اياه هيك بصير بخالف قوانين الجامعه. طيب سلام. By the way يا شباب, if I pronounce anybody's name incorrectly صححوني. Please correct me. سلام. Go ahead. سلام. شايف هاي أول واحد. تفضل يا سلام.
دكتور, where can we find the recorded sessions?
على المايكروسوفت ستريم. أنا إن شاء الله after I finish this after I finish this إن شاء الله I will make a link على البلاك بورد. يعني I will activate the local blackboards that we have although انا مستني انه يعملوها ميرج، يعني انا حابب انه كل السكاشن تبعوني يكونوا في one بلاك بورد اللي هم 4 و5 و6 و9 and 10. But anyways, I will inshallah do it. I'll give you a link to the recording and you can go back to it, and if you catch any mistake please forgive me, but let me know so that I correct it maybe next class. طيب أنس go ahead.
يعطيك العافية يا دكتور. أنا
الله
عندي
يعافيك.
سؤالين بسيطة الله لا يهينك.
تفضل.
بالنسبة اللي هو تسجيل المايكروسوفت تيمز، هل هو بينحذف؟ لأن أخبر كنا قبل عند دكتور في الأوريا وكان التسجيل يقعد فترة معينة ثم يحذف، فهل في آلية إنه يبقى يعني دائما؟
والله أنا اللي شفته أنا شفته إنهم هم حاطين 20 days إنه it will stay 20 days الريكوردينج، لكن if I give you the link, if you are able to download it ما تأثر، يعني download it. أنا المشكلة I don't have time والله to put it on YouTube ولا try to do something like this، خصوصا إذا كان فيها غلط ولا الواحد يعني جل من لا يسهو، لكن if you would like to do it إن شاء الله النفع راح يكون يعني أكثر. بس اللي what I remember إنه في ال 192 students were not able to do that. But I will not be surprised if you can do it now. لأنه there are a lot of changes that happened على Microsoft Teams from 192 until now.
صدقت الله لا يهينك دكتور، يعطيك العافية. السؤال الثاني اللي كنت بسألك إياه دكتور اللي هو عن البرمجة، هل الحين بنستخدم الجوبايتر على النت ولا بنحمل نفس لغة البايثون البرنامج الرسمي حقي من الجهاز؟
لا أنتوا لما when you go to the common blackboard you download installing the Jupyter document. If it's basically a step-by-step document. You go over the steps one by one. You will install أول شيء Anaconda, and then you will install after Anaconda I think you will install Jupyter. ولا هي أصلا مع when you install Anaconda it will install Jupyter, and then you will install the extensions that you need, like Rise, the one that we use for the presentation. أو Rise هي Rise, which I think it should be Rise. You don't have to first install Jupyter, install Python وبعدين تفكر تدور على Jupyter. لا، كل شيء موجود بهالدوكيومنت. Just go over it one by one إن شاء الله يعني you will not face any problem. Okay?
الله يبيض وجهك ويهينك، مشكور يا دكتور، يعطيك العافية. لا
طيب any other question يا شباب؟ ترى صلنا 3-4 دقائق متجاوزين الوقت. طيب إن شاء الله I wish you all the best، ونراكم بإذن الله بعد بكرة على خير. وزي ما قلت لكم إن شاء الله حاولوا تنزلوا للجوبيتر وتلعبوا فيه هيك قبل ما before you come. Wish you all the best إن شاء الله. we'll see you. If you want anything كمان، المفروض إنه عندي الآن office hours. If you want anything I can let me first shut the recording, stop the